a chance to take stock and reflect on the week their city changed forever. Like so many others, this church was damaged in Tuesday's earthquake, this service taking place al fresco, with the week's events forefront in everyone's mind.
And that's why the chairs are some distance away from the church, because we're all very much on edge and know that there might be another aftershock that comes along, so we're aware of those dangers as well.
As its name suggests, Christchurch was founded as a Christian city, and despite the fact that many of their church buildings lie in ruins, for some, finding solace on a Sunday is the normal, natural thing to do. It is, if you like, a small slice of the ordinary in extraordinary times.
It would take something more than extraordinary for any survivors to be found now beneath Christchurch's rubble. Recovering and identifying bodies has become the principal task. It's a slow process, dreadfully so for the families of the missing. Every afternoon they arrive for a police briefing, their numbers swelling by the day as grieving relatives from abroad pour in. Christchurch was a big tourist town. People from at least 20 different countries were killed in the quake.
They're overseas, they've received dreadful news, they've had to arrange travel in a haste, and they've come to a part of the country that's quite badly affected by the earthquake. Infrastructure's not necessarily there to support them, and all at a time that they're stressed and de-stressed.
Police have to cope with the darker side of human nature too. There has been a spate of looting of abandoned homes, and frayed nerves have meant reports of domestic violence have spiked. Earthquake scars will forever be a physical feature of modern Christchurch, the emotional trauma taking its toll too. Andrew Thomas, Al Jazeera, Christchurch.
Let's get the sport now. Here's Farah.
Thank you, Shalene. India and England have brought cricket's World Cup to life with a sensational tied match in Bengaluru. India set England a winning total of 339, and the game was to go down to the very last ball. Andy Richardson reports.
It was the match all India seemed to have been waiting for. The co-hosts taking on England, and a feeling this tournament was now really lifting off. Indian fans hoping their side could take another step to becoming the first team to win the world title in front of home support. India batted first, and once again it was Sachin Tendulkar leading the way for his country, easing his way to a 47th one-day century. He scored 120 as India took control. MS Dhoni and Yuvraj Singh then paired up to inflict yet more damage on England's attack. England did hit back with late wickets, but India's total of 338 looked formidable. In reply, England captain Andrew Strauss looked more than up for the task. He settled in to score his first ever World Cup century, England in with a chance. Ably assisted by Ian Bell, Strauss's England were making India look old and ordinary in the field. But late wickets were then to tumble, England stumbling when in sight of victory. 14 were needed off the final over, 2 off the last ball, only 1 was scored, so the match finished in a tie. A pulsating game, finishing with points shared. Andy Richardson, Al Jazeera, Bengaluru.
Moving on to Italian football, where fourth place Lazio lost 1-0 to Cagliari. Lazio missed their chance to leapfrog Inter and go up to third. Luck was on Cagliari's side in this match. The home side took the lead when Andre Diaz stumbled to score an own goal 5 minutes before the break, and that's how it ended 1-0 to Cagliari. Meanwhile, Roma took on Parma at home. It was new coach Vincenzo Montella's debut match at the Stadio Olimpico. Francesco Totti's penalty put Roma 1-0 up, and Juan dos Santos eventually made this their second. But Parma came back into the second half. Amari Carvalho scored 2 goals for Parma. The match ended 2-2. These are the other matches taking place in Italy on Sunday. Bottom side Bari were held to a 1-1 draw at home to Fiorentina. Fifth place Udinese handed out a footballing lesson to Palermo. They won 7-0. Alex Sanchez with 4 goals and Antonio Di Natale with 3. The late game sees third place Inter Milan visit Sampdoria. Moving to Spanish football, where fourth-place Villarreal are facing Racing Santander at home. Villarreal are currently 2 points behind third-place Valencia and are hoping a win can move them up the table. But it was the home side who got off to a firing start. Ariel Nalfan scoring for Racing just 2 minutes into the match to take an early lead. It's approaching halftime now, and the latest there is 1-0 to Racing. Well, the underdogs have done it. Birmingham stunned Arsenal 2-1 to win the English League Cup in a thrilling final at Wembley Stadium. Birmingham took the lead through Nikolai Zigic in the first half. Then Arsenal's Robin van Persie managed to level the score 1-1, but a last-minute strike from Obafemi Martins sealed the win for Birmingham. It's their first major trophy since 1963. Only 2 matches taking place in the English Premier League on Sunday. Manchester City's title hopes have suffered another setback as they were held to a 1-1 draw at home by Fulham, while Liverpool saw an end to their great run of form after losing 3-1 to struggling West Ham at Upton Park. Rugby, and Ireland got their Six Nations campaign back on track after beating Scotland at Murrayfield on Sunday. 3 tries that came from Jamie Hislop, Owen Redden and Rowan O'Gara helped to seal the 21-18 win for the visitors. The result leaves the Scots still without a point from 3 games, while Ireland join Wales and France on 4 points, 2 points behind leaders England. And that's it for sport for this hour. Back to Shuli.
Farah, thanks very much indeed for that. Now the red carpet is down. The stars are getting ready to shine. Hollywood's biggest night of backslapping. The Oscars just hours away. Films about a stuttering king and an upstart internet billionaire are tipped for the top awards. Rob Reynolds takes us through the list of hopefuls.
Final preparations are underway for Hollywood's biggest show. This year, there are no blue-skinned space aliens and just one special effects blockbuster in the Best Picture category. Dramas take center stage. Here's the list.
What'll I call you?
Your Royal Highness.
The King's Speech is the story of an accidental monarch's struggle with stuttering and self-doubt. The film stars Colin Firth, who is also nominated for Best Actor.
You really need to relax.
Black Swan harrowingly portrays a prima ballerina's artistic triumph and simultaneous descent into madness. Natalie Portman is a front-runner for Best Actress.
This is something I just never allow.
In The Kids Are All Right, a lesbian couple's teenage children contact their biological father, nearly destroying the family. Annette Bening has a Best Actress nomination. James Franco finds himself literally stuck between a rock and a hard place in 127 Hours, a graphic survival story directed by Danny Boyle. Best Actor nominee Franco also hosts this year's Oscar broadcast. Westerns are among the most venerable of movie genres. In True Grit, Best Actor nominee Jeff Bridges is a whiskey-swilling, syllable-swallowing, straight-shooting lawman who helps a young girl track down the bad guy who killed her father.
Who are you?
The ruthless digital frontier is examined in The Social Network. Jesse Eisenberg's channeling of unlikable Facebook founder Mark Zuckerberg earned him a Best Actor nomination. In the special effects-heavy film Inception, Leonardo DiCaprio dabbles in the stuff that other people's dreams are made of. Winter's Bone depicts a teenage girl's wretched journey through impoverished, meth-addled rural Missouri in search of her no-good, drug-dealing daddy.
I'll find him.
20-year-old Jennifer Lawrence's portrayal of the tough-as-nails teen earned her a Best Actress nomination.
New toys! Yeah!
Pixar's Toy Story 3 rounds out the Best Picture nominations, with wisecracking playthings fleeing the garbage truck in search of a child's love. The animated feature was the top-grossing 2010 film worldwide. Also nominated for Best Actor, Javier Bardem in the Spanish-language film Beautiful. Nicole Kidman in Rabbit Hole and Michelle Williams in Blue Valentine are in the running for Best Actress awards. 2010 was the biggest box office year in history, according to the Motion Picture Association, with worldwide ticket sales topping a record $31.8 billion. Rob Reynolds, Al Jazeera, Hollywood.
We'll look forward to all those tearful acceptance speeches later on. I'll be back at the top of the hour here on Al Jazeera with all the latest from Libya, Tunisia and the rest of the world. Do stay with us.
Hello again. We're seeing an awful lot of wet weather across the northern parts of Asia at the moment. The heavier downpours are now moving away from the northern parts of China there. So here they'll be cloudy, just 1 or 2 showers to deal with here. Instead, here's that heavier rain making its way across the southern half of Japan. Very heavy downpours out of that. But this should clear as we head through the day on Tuesday. Then there'll still be a lot of cloud around and 1 or 2 showers, but it shouldn't be the heavy and persistent rain. Now, all of that grey weather does extend further south as well. So for the southeastern parts of China, also lots of cloud here as well. That cloud will be capable of giving us 1 or 2 showers. The heaviest of those will be here, just making their way through Shanghai there. Heavy downpours I expect, particularly during the afternoon. Now, a little bit further south, and for the southern parts of the Philippines, the wet weather here really is pepping up. An area of low pressure does appear to be developing, so very wet as we head through the next couple of days here. Elsewhere, there will also be some heavy showers, particularly across Java there. There it does look very wet, even for Jakarta as well. Now, for Australia, the wettest weather here is still in the far north. Torrentially heavy downpours out of this band of wet weather as we head through the next couple of days, so certainly it's very wet here. Further south, it should be an awful lot drier here. Warm for us in Adelaide, but cooler in Melbourne at 19.
As protests, violence, and the call for political reform spreads across the Arab world, Al Jazeera's in-depth coverage of events on the ground brings you the news as it breaks. Ongoing coverage of the Libya uprising on Al Jazeera.
2 generations face the past in order to understand the present. A young man embarks on a journey with his father in search of answers. Great changes in China have brought their traditional family way of life to a crisis point. Faces of China, at this time on Al Jazeera.
Muammar Gaddafi vows to stay in Libya as his supporters take to the streets just outside the capital. Hello, I'm Shudi Ghosh. You're with Al Jazeera live from Doha with extended coverage of the uprising in Libya. Also coming up, anti-government forces controlling AlJazeera, 50 kilometres from Tripoli, preparing for a pro-Gaddafi counterattack. Fresh violence breaks out in the capital of Tunisia as the interim Prime Minister Mohamed Ghannouchi resigns. And police in Oman shoot rubber bullets at stone-throwing protesters, killing 2 of them. Government buildings and cars are set alight. Libya's leader Muammar Gaddafi has again pledged to stay in the country. In his latest interview, this time with a Serbian television station, he repeated his claims that foreigners and Al-Qaeda are to blame for the violence. Well, the Libyan leader still has some support. Just outside the capital, Gaddafi loyalists took to the streets, waving posters and chanting slogans. Outside the city of AlJazeera in western Libya, there were similar scenes. The city centre, though, is in anti-government hands. Reports say that pro-Gaddafi forces are preparing to launch a counter-offensive. Jackie Rowland reports.
The town of AlJazeera lies just 50 kilometres to the west of Tripoli. Now it has become a new front line in the battle between pro- and anti-Gaddafi forces. These pictures were shot by journalists brought here by the regime. The idea was to show the outside world that Gaddafi is still in control here. Instead, the reporters found that AlJazeera was in rebel hands, at least for now. The town is surrounded by pro-Gaddafi forces. Both sides are armed with tanks and anti-aircraft guns. Gaddafi's crackdown against his opponents has been the bloodiest and most ruthless in the wave of uprisings sweeping North Africa and the Middle East. But it doesn't seem to have stemmed the rebellion against his 4-decade rule. In the east of the country, opposition forces are welcoming visitors to what they are calling Free Libya. In the city of Benghazi, there are signs of a return to normal. Banks have reopened here, and in the town of Al-Baida, both of which threw off Gaddafi's rule about a week ago.
The banks have been